Hi, thanks, Jim. Now, have you ever wondered about those apology videos to the Indigenous people of Canada and gone, wow, they really haven't done anything? Now, over 10 years ago, Steve Harper apologized for the Indigenous people in residential schools. They promised so many things, so many great opportunities, and they promised that they wouldn't cause any more problems to the Indigenous. Well, we all know that's not true. Now, you would think after promising so many great examples and great opportunities, there would actually be something done about these. Well, it's been a few years, and the Indigenous people are just getting clean water. A better example would be the 94 calls to action. There's 94 calls to action for the Indigenous people. And guess what? We've only completed 13 and haven't even started 15. How can you care about the Indigenous if after so many years, you can't even focus on your goals? See, they seem to really care about the Indigenous people in the apologies, but as soon as we look into the past, we really see they didn't care about them at all. So another good example of the government giving a care in the world about the Indigenous people would be in the 60s, one day they decided to take a bunch of Indigenous kids from their loving parents and loving homes and send them to adoption centers. Like, I wonder how that conversation went in the government. Like, yo, I have a great idea. Let's take a bunch of Indigenous kids from their homes and let's just distribute them to a bunch of white families across the country. Isn't that a great idea? No, I'd say it's a pretty good, clear example that the government likes to promise things, but not so good as keeping those promises.
Now, another event that existed was the Oka crisis. Now, the Oka crisis happened in the 1990s, and it was between the police and the Mohawk. Now, imagine living in the middle of a forest, and all of a sudden, the Quebec government wants to build a golf course on your burial grounds. And of course, the government really expected them to go, yeah, we'd love to play a few rounds on our ancestors' dead bodies. Now, obviously, a fight broke loose and many people were injured and arrested. And, it kind of left everyone in a bad terms. So how are you going to say that you care about the Indigenous when even a case that didn't happen that long ago, the Oka crisis, and you really say you care about them, even though you can go into their grounds, threaten to build a golf course, and injure and arrest so many others? How can you say you really like them?
Now, another fact that I would say is more recent would be the missing children and women in Indigenous cities/towns. Now, have you heard one thing on the news about this? I bet you none of you guys know. So how can the government care about so many other political and economical issues, but not even care to mention them? Fun fact, they haven't even tried to search for them. Like, how can you say that you really care about Indigenous if you don't even try to search for loved ones in the community? Like, you care about so many other, sometimes useless issues, but don't care about missing and children and women in Indigenous areas. Tell me. Now, what you should be asking is, do they actually care about the Indigenous people? Or were those interviews just a cover-up?